Did you know that when you're in the ICU, you could get something called ICU psychosis or ICU syndrome? So when my kidneys failed, I was put into the hospital on the regular transplant floor. But I was taking about 5 or 6 blood pressure medicines, and my blood pressure was still insanely high. So they wanted me to go to the ICU and receive a nitroglycerin drip. I really wasn't sleeping at this time, partly in due to the noises of the ICU. There's constantly noises from the machines going off, your machine, other people's machines. There's people in the hallway. There's nurses coming in and out. You're getting your medicines. So it's very hard to sleep. And I don't know if it was just from sleep deprivation or the sensory deprivation, the way that the ICU is set up, can just cause you to get ICU psychosis. So my first symptom was seeing goblins on the wall. And I kind of thought I was just hallucinating from the toxins building up in my blood from my kidney not working and not being on dialysis. And then I had started dialysis, but I was continuing to have hallucinations, but I didn't know they were hallucinations. I was hearing a music, like a radio station playing from the ceiling, and I thought it was the transplant center's radio station, which of course they do not have a radio station, but I thought it was from that playing in the ceiling. I heard lots of different music. I had brought an iPod with me, and I was listening to it, and I was like hearing a lot of those songs, but they were kind of distorted. And I was also hearing songs that I had never heard before. I was hearing voices like in certain places. Up above, there was opera voices that were repeating the same thing. In my lap, there was a voice that was comforting, the only comforting voice that was singing a song. There was a laughing noise coming from the heater. There was just like a lot of voices, noises, and sounds. Like I could hear people washing their hands, but there was nobody in my room. I could hear people coming down the stairs and closing a squeaky door, but I had really thought there was a stairwell behind my room, but when I got well enough to come out of ICU, I realized there was no stairwell. Another thing that I was experiencing was that everything had a face. I know there's a word for that, but I don't really know what it is. But I started seeing faces and objects, and they also seemed to have a presence, like they were alive. So that would frighten me at night. I was also getting a lot of Ativan shots because I was having extreme anxiety, and the Ativan shots just kind of made me hallucinate even more. And so I thought some things were just from Ativan, but I was really terrified because, you know, psychosis can be pretty scary, especially when you don't realize you're actually hallucinating and you think it's all real. So when I heard voices from another room talking about me, and then I realized they weren't really there, I told my parents, and then we told the nurses and the doctors, and I had already been in the ICU for about 2 weeks, so they gave me a Haldol, which is an older psychiatric medicine, I think, and I started twitching and jerking for a while, and then suddenly I fell asleep, and I was actually sleeping. But at 2 a.m, they came into my room and said, "You're moving back up to the transplant floor." So I had to gather all my stuff, put it on my bed. My sister was there sleeping with me, so she helped me. And I was moved up to the transplant floor because the cure for ICU psychosis is to get out of the ICU. I did have some lingering psychosis, but at least I knew that it wasn't real this time, so it was less scary. But had I known before that this was possible, I mean, the doctor, when I told the doctor that I was having this issue, they did say it was ICU psychosis, and I'm like, I didn't believe him though. I was like, how does being in a room cause you to have psychosis? Like, I didn't understand it. But if I had known beforehand that this is a legitimate thing and it's caused by certain factors, I would have, not been so afraid. And I would have known and told the doctor sooner.